What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. Innovation is a skill in which a lot of companies strive to excel. You ever wonder why some are really good at it and some, no matter how hard they try, just can't get it to stick? This is true for tech, for products, and for the people side of business. If you find innovation remotely interesting, you're in the right spot. We've got Robyn Bolton on the program. Don't know Robyn? Stick around. She's awesome. Robyn is the founder and chief navigator at Mile Zero, a consultancy that helps companies to hone their innovation chops. Robyn has worked with Clayton Christensen, so her innovation credentials are legit. She's also helped to develop and launch really cool products like Swiffer and Swiffer WetJet. She's been featured in Fast Company, Harvard Business Review, the New York Times, and she's the author of the new book, Unlocking Innovation, A Leader's Guide to Turning Bold Ideas into Tangible Results. This was a fantastic conversation, and it was a blast to have Robyn back on the show, and I think you're going to dig it. So buckle up, TC Beers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Robyn Bolton on today's TCB.
Welcome to SkyTeam's The Corporate Bartender, where we gather some of the best HR and people leaders to discuss what's happening on the people side of business. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's your favorite day and mine. You know what that means. It's Corporate Bartender Day. It is the 5th of March, 2025, and the 219th time we've convened this group of awesome people. And, you know, hey, I'm still living in the old days, pulling back slides that haven't been here for a while because I missed her. So the bar's open. Just wanted to take a second to reconnect and say hello. We've got some folks here that haven't been here in a while. Leah, how's it going? What's going on?
What version of answer do you want to that?
Yeah, like the sun is still out, so
that's a good
day. We're back to
normal. Ruby, how you doing?
Doing all right. I'm a little distracted by the upcoming concert announcement that we received about Mexico.
Yes. That's a fun thing. So for those listening, we, and by we, I mean Lori and me and Ruby and her husband and a host of other folks, go to a music festival in Mexico. And today was the big lineup reveal. And we're pretty excited about it. So it's getting real now. Like, it's real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tickets are coming available on Saturday, and that's going to be a good thing. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. There's a high volume of news items coming at us every day.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed. Sorry.
And I don't know about you all, but I've been wrestling with the brain fog and the focus and trying to keep my stuff together of late. I had a couple of personal things to deal with this week, medical stuff that I've put off for years, which drives my anxiety, I don't know, through the roof. So, you know, I'm always looking for something to help clear the way. And we found something that I like. It's been clearing the way for me. It's called Magic Mind. And it is a mental performance shot. I've got one right here. I'll see if I can get it to focus on. There you go. So they're little, they're itty bitty, but they help with focus. They help with just getting your brain back in focus, getting to clarity, getting you in that flow. It's a good thing. They reached out to me a few weeks ago and said, "Hey, do you want to try this product and talk about it?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll try it. And if I like it, maybe I'll talk about it." So I tried it. I liked it. So I'm talking about it. But I wondered, I didn't know anything about it. I was thinking, is it safe? What's in it? And I went through and read the little research report. It's 100% safe. It's all third-party tested, doctor validated. But it's an interesting thing, right? It's not like It's not like 5-hour energy or something where you pound it and you're ready to rock and roll. It's not a quick fix. It's kind of a slow burn, right? So you gotta take it over time to allow your body to adapt to it. It's not a coffee replacement. I think it's more of a coffee augmentation. You get to take it and you get to keep drinking your coffee. So I thought it was pretty interesting. The company's pretty cool too. They give back 5 cents from each bottle, goes back to mental health charities, and they are carbon neutral, which, hey, that's a thing. And if you don't like it, there's a 100-day, 100%, no questions asked refund. You don't like it, just send it back, get your money back. So no risk. So I'm in, I'm digging it. If you dig it too or want to check it out, just go to magicmind.com. And hey, Lori and I are famous now. We have a code. You can type in this code upon checkout, Eric and Lori 20. That's Eric and Lori 20 at magicmind.com. All right. Well, focus is the key to getting your innovative ideas out. And hey, today we've got a guest. And not only is she a guest, she's a boomerang guest. She's been here before. Her name's Robyn Bolton, and she's the author of this book right here, Unlocking Innovation, a leader's guide for turning bold ideas into tangible results. And we will get into that conversation here in just a minute or two. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I have to remind folks, we have a dark day ahead next week. Lori and I will be in San Diego next week, so we will not be bartending. And then the week after that, we've got a guest. Her name is Therese McClough, and she wrote this book called The Facilitation Advantage, How to Drive Impact, Build Relationships, and Lead with Influence. That's going to be a fun one. But today it's all about Robyn. If you caught the Robyn episode from last summer, she's like the innovation person on the people side of business. We talked a lot about her history last time. We'll touch on that again and get into the book. But she's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. She started in marketing. She's done really interesting work with Procter & Gamble, with Boston Consulting Group, with Clayton Christensen's innovation and strategy consulting firm. So her innovation credentials are legit. She started her own company called Mile Zero, and she has been doing that for a while and threatened when she was here last time to write this book. She's finally done it. So this augments the work that she does with HR and talent teams at places like Warner Brothers and Discovery, Curriculum Associates. So she's kind of been around the block, and now she's got a tome that tells the story. So she knows the drill. Let's give Robyn a warm TCB welcome, shall we? There we go. Got to get your dance on, Robyn. Hey, Robyn, how you doing? Thanks for being here today.
I am doing great. I love being here. Love being at the bar with you guys. So I'm stoked. I'm excited.
Well, awesome. Well, for those that didn't have the benefit of coming on the journey with you last summer, you know how we like to start with the origin story. And I imagine that author was not the thing that was on your list of things that you wanted to be when you were in 3rd grade and somebody said, what are you going to be when you grow up? So tell us a little bit about how it started and how it's going.
So in 3rd grade, when asked, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be an author. Because I was in 3rd grade and I didn't know what I was talking about. Just like all good 3rd graders. But no, and then actually I had always said, like, I want to be an author mainly because in 10th grade, I was forced to read Moby Dick. And I hate that book with like every fiber of my being. And I'm like, nobody should ever be forced to read this book again. So I will take it on myself to write the book that displaces it, which is not unlocking innovation.
I was going to say, we're going to have to talk about how this does that.
Yeah, it's not that, but one day, still a goal. Anyways, so eventually I guess I grew up, I got wiser. went to school, studied marketing because business is a very practical sort
Yes.
of thing to study.
Parents
And
love business degrees.
they do. Yeah, my parents basically gave me the option of pre-med, teaching, or business. And I was like, don't want to do pre-med. My mom was a teacher. She's like, I don't want you in this profession. And so
So
then
you're
I was
down to
left
one.
with business. So yeah, I was left with business. I'm like, which major has the least amount of math? Marketing, great. So it truly was process of elimination. But I was very lucky that when I was graduating from Miami University in Ohio, it's close to Cincinnati. P&G is located there, and P&G was investing in building new brands. So I got hired into brand management, and
And did you expect to like retire from there? Because that's what people did then. You got a job at a big and you stayed there forever. Got your watch, called it a career.
That is I knew that. I knew that everyone expected that. And so I kind of had this mental breakdown senior year of like, oh my gosh, has my life been decided for me? This is so boring.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. And then I realized like, no, I can always quit my job, which is very free. So yes, my parents were thrilled that I could have a job for life at P&G and retire. And I was like, we're going to see how this goes. And probably not. But anyways, keep the parents happy. Rule number one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially at 18 years old.
Yes. So moved to Cincinnati, went to work for P&G, and truly pure luck. Like I said, it was a time when P&G was investing in building new brands, and I was put on a new business development team, and we were working on a new brand, a new product. And so quite literally a year from the day that I graduated from Miami was on stage at the North American sales meeting launching Swiffer. So
Did you hear that, everybody? Swiffer, a thing that we've all used. Swiffer.
Yeah. So that was my first year in the real world. And it was
this like
amazing.
the dry Swiffer? Was this the WetJet?
Yes. So this was the dry Swiffer. And then I moved on to do the WetJet, which took another 2 years. But yeah. Yep. That was
I think about you every time I do the kitchen floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing to say, but like thank you. Because
I know. I mean it with love. It's not derogatory. Ruby just said in the chat, I know a lot about Swiffer, Eric. Shut up, Ruby. I do. I love my Swiffer.
So that was, that was my first year out of school, and it was so fun because I was, in this group where it was like P&G has a ton of rules, just like every big company. And my boss's boss's boss was like, your job is to break the rules. I'm like, this is fantastic.
Right?
Like, yes, this is what I want to do. And I was hooked. I was hooked on innovation because I'm like, I get to break the rules and get paid.
Yes. And especially nice when leadership understands that means you're going to have a lot of failures, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Like it's expected.
Yeah.
Make shit
he
up,
knew
see
that.
what it does.
Yeah. And the thing that I didn't understand at the time was he was like, do the right thing for the business. Whatever, like, I don't care what the process is. I don't care what the rules are. Do the right thing for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And 2 or 3 times, I was in the HR meeting getting the pink slip for breaking the rules. And he came in and he was like, stop, get
Don't
out. We're going to talk. And again, this is my first year of the real world. So I was like, this is awesome. This is how it is normally. And
turns out that's not
normal.
true.
That's not true at all. So I was very, very spoiled, very, very lucky.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the place you stayed for 28 years and got your gold watch, clearly.
No.
So you left P&G and what did you do after that?
Yeah. So left P&G. Actually, when I was still with P&G, I moved to Arkansas, which, if there's ever a time in your life when you buy a one-way ticket from Ohio to Arkansas, it's kind of okay.
It's like a joke that starts in a bar. So I bought this ticket from Ohio to Arkansas.
A one-way ticket too.
One-way
It's like
ticket.
I bought a one-way ticket to Arkansas. Like that is how country music songs start.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah, so I bought a one-way ticket to Arkansas, worked for a time at PG sales team at Walmart, and then moved up to Boston, went through complete and total culture shock, as you might imagine.
What?
Yeah, I know. At one point, my sister, she lived in Boston at the time, so we ended up living together. And I remember her tugging me, and she's like, "You need to stop," like stopping on the street and looking around. But I was like, "But it's so bright, and there are so many tall buildings." And she's like, "Oh." Anyways, so got my MBA at
mugged.
Yeah, you're gonna get us
she's like,
mugged.
"You're gonna." Yes. Also, she's like, "You need to stop smiling at everyone you make eye contact with." Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so we survived. We did not get mugged. Yeah, got my MBA at Harvard, went to work at the Boston Consulting Group, and then spent about 9 years at Innosight, which was the firm that was founded by Clayton Christensen. So all of the work that we did was dedicated to innovation and to growth and to creating things. And to have access to the guy who literally created the phrase disruptive innovation was amazing. So learned a ton, did a ton, worked with companies kind of in all sorts of different industries. And then honestly, the firm got acquired by what I consider to be a less than exciting consulting firm. So I was like, peace, I'm out. And ultimately ended up creating my company, Mile Zero, and doing a lot of the stuff we talked about last time of really focusing in on like the human side of innovation. And all of that came together in a conversation in 2023 where, one of my advisors was like, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?"
And you were like,
"Yes,
well,
I
as a
have."
matter of fact, I have.
Third grade.
I'm like, "Yeah, hasn't everyone?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Yes, I have, but the world does not need another innovation book. There are too many."
To be fair, the world doesn't need another boring business book, right? I mean,
no, totally.
Yeah. I mean, we went through that same process. And when we started having our conversations about writing Yumi We,
yep,
I said to anybody that we had to meet with, if this is going to be a boring business book, I'm out. Like I had no desire to write a book like that.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, they're boring, and most business books could be an article. Like, why do I have to slog through 300 pages? Just, yeah.
Right.
I was yours is only 200
pages. Yours is only 200 pages. So it is kind of the anti-Moby Dick here at this point.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about the impetus. So somebody asked you if you'd ever considered writing one. How did you get from that question to actually committing to it? Because writing a book is a pain in the ass.
It is a pain. It is a pain in the ass. Absolutely. And what brought me to it is like this frustration, this thing that I've struggled with for years. And it was around like the innovator's dilemma came out in the late 90s. And so it's been 30 years, let's say, give or take. And
that's frightening, by the way, that the 90s were 30 years ago. But yes,
yes, I know. Until somebody asked you about what it was like to live in the late 1900s.
Oh
God!
You have not
that's
felt
a
old.
Terrible phrase.
It's. Anyways, so I talked about churning butter and milking a cow and wearing my hoop skirt. Anyways,
we all died of dysentery.
Yes, we tried to get to Oregon and we didn't make it.
I love when people get my nerd jokes.
100%. Anyways, so the innovator's dilemma came out 30 years ago, and the success rate of corporate innovation hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is I lovingly call it the innovation industrial complex has been created. And that you have all these consultants and books and frameworks and articles and workshops and all of this stuff, but it hasn't changed a thing.
Right.
And so what are we missing? And, my whole thesis, which sounds very fancy, my whole thesis is we're missing that human side of innovation. And specifically, we're really, neglecting what it takes to lead innovation and the human aspect and the human ask and challenge of being a leader of innovation. And so that's what led to the book.
Awesome. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about the book, because the construction of it is atypical for a book on innovation, and it includes words like hope and faith, things that you typically don't talk about, right? In innovation circles. What makes this book different?
So this book it's very much written to be practical, to be used. I think I actually say somewhere in the introduction somewhere, like, I want this book to be destroyed. Like, I want people to use it so much that, like, the binding just gives up life. So I really wrote it to be useful and to be kind of a manual and a workbook, but then also, like, kind of a hug, which also is something we don't talk about in business books, but like a hug to the innovation leaders to be like, yes, what you're doing is hard. Yes, it is scary. Keep going. I got you. I support you. You can do this. So it's set up, it's broken up into 3 years, because as I was writing the book, I found, there you go, year one, critical. I believe I call year one all rainbows and unicorns. Which of course always makes me think of you, me, we, and your unicorn.
A lot of unicorns going on there.
Got a lot of unicorns, but it's so the stat that most innovation teams, incubators, accelerators, whatever you want to call them, that 90% of them are shut down within 3 years. And
it's not because the ideas suck, right?
Not at all. It's because they aren't producing results.
That's right. Yep.
And, we can absolutely argue about whether that's the right thing to do or not. But I basically took the approach of, like, let's just accept it. It's 90%. We don't have to like it, but let's accept it. How do you survive the first 3 years when you were most at risk? And so it's broken down into kind of year one, this is what you've got to do. Year two, guess what? I hate to tell you, you need to have results, but let's get creative how we talk about results. And year three, you're preparing for, hopefully for your next 3 years. And then within each of the years, and this is the thing that I don't want to say, like, solves the frustration of why hasn't things changed, because that's an overpromise, but it adds to the conversation, because it's each year structured into the ABCs. So the architecture, behavior, and culture required for innovation, because you've got to be working on all of that left brain, businessy architecture stuff, like strategy, process, teams, etc. And you have to have a leader who is engaging in certain ways, thinking about certain things, making specific choices, and you have to be gently preparing the organization to embrace innovation. So you've got to be working on all three of those things in different ways over the course of 3 years.
There's a term we use at Cable Labs when we're talking about innovation, and it's that I equate it to the human side. That's the innovation grit. It's that kind of what it takes in an individual to climb a lot of hills, trip over a lot of things, be told no a lot, give your canceled idea resuscitation in the corner under your desk, kind of things, that grit part. And it's not just a known thing that people understand, right? It's like it does take that kind of intention and, like, desire. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I, started using this analogy when I was back at P&G of, like, doing innovation, especially in large organizations, is like throwing yourself against a brick wall, until a brick falls out. And now I'm like, until a chunk of mortar falls out. Like we're just trying to get some mortar to dislodge. um, but it is grit, it is perseverance, it is resilience. It is it's not blind optimism, but like I feel like it's this very deep belief in the potential of something and the willingness to fight to achieve that potential. But yeah, it ain't easy.
Yeah, yeah. And not all companies have a leader who embraces break the rules. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I start with is, like, you have the ABCs, but really it is the BACs. Although, hey, bartender, I'm like, that reminds me of blood alcohol content, which is a different book. So we're just going to talk about the ABCs, but really the B is the most important. And it starts with, as a leader, like you need to sit down and get really clear with yourself about what you are and aren't willing to do. And what are the things you're willing to put on the line? And what are the things that you're not willing to risk? And then all of your messaging needs to be consistent with that. And you can change your mind over time as you learn more. But so often, corporate executives will go out there and be like, we need to disrupt ourselves. And then you bring them an idea and they're like, no, really, we're just looking, can we make this in a different color? And the disconnect is just so damaging.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's super sexy to say that we want to disrupt, but it's hard and it takes a lot of work. And
and it's incredibly risky.
We need to disrupt, but don't touch my stuff. Not you all go turn your world upside down, but don't jack with mine. Yeah.
Yeah. My world is great. My world is fine. You're a mess. So you go do you. And it just, nothing good comes from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. So did you use, like, what was the, compiling research, or like how did you come to the secret sauce of the human element that was missing? Like what was the light bulb that you got for that?
Yeah, it really was kind of my hands-on work experience working as an advisor, and then reflecting on my time at P&G and thinking about, like, okay, what was the difference between the teams that succeeded and got things into the market and got results, and those that didn't, those that had a lot of activity, but not much to show for it, and realize it all came down to the leader. Mm-hmm. And so each year in the book starts with a story of a leader who, I think, as they say in the book, is 85% based on a real person. But liberties have been taken. And that's where hope and faith comes in. Hope is the first protagonist, and she's been tasked with starting up an innovation team. Faith is year 2 protagonist, because she's kind of been slotted into a team that's been working and discovered it's not all she was told. But then last you get Victor, and that name was very, very purposely chosen, who has succeeded, still facing issues in year 3, but kind of how he's protecting the team and really setting it up for continued success.
Mm-hmm. Love that. It's great framework.
So, but it really is. It's all about the leaders and how they engage with their teams and how they act as champions. And one of the first things that I talk about in the book is, innovation and operation are completely different things. One, you're doing what you know how to do. You do it better, faster, cheaper. Like, you've got this, you've got experience, you can predict what happens. Innovation, I don't know. And yet executives behave the same way in totally opposite circumstances. So
they want innovation to be predictable, like operations.
Yes, exactly. And so, like, you know what, when you're dealing with innovation, you've got to do the opposite of your instincts. And so, I talk in the book, like, channel your inner George Costanza from only one episode of Seinfeld. And it's the episode literally called The Opposite, where George does the opposite of his instincts.
Yes.
And gets like his dream job. And yes. So like for that one episode only, be George.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. The other tension that I've seen in organizations is the tension between the people, right? If you're predisposed to be that kind of break the rules, creative thinker, risk taker predisposition, that comes a little bit easier maybe. And if you're more focused on execution and measurement and quality and output and results, right, then that's your sweet spot. And so then there can become this kind of internal pull between what we call the artists and the soldiers, right? Like the artists are taking up all the resources and the time, and they're not creating anything. That the soldiers got their head in the weeds, and they're not paying attention to what we need years from now, and right. And so then there can be this judgment when you have to have both, right? And that's a symbiotic relationship, but there's tension in it. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. I have a theory that everything is junior high. And we never actually get out of junior high.
That feels so true.
And I hate that it's true, but I think it is. And so the innovation teams, like, they become the cool kids.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the operations, they're the nerds. And it's just like, it's not okay. And so both are so, so, so important. But too often companies, when they kind of do the swing toward innovation, like, they give all the money to the innovation teams and the cool offices and the beanbag chairs and the Nespresso machine. And the innovation team goes off on all of these boondoggles. And you're right. Like, the operations people are like in the grind.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to not put innovation on a pedestal. Like, those operators are keeping the lights on, and they're keeping your checks from bouncing, and you got to love them just as much as the innovators.
Well, and they're executing the things that the innovators thought about 3 years ago. And in order to keep that cycle going, you need each other, right?
And they have really important perspective around like what can actually be done and the implications of certain choices. And so you need them to get things for market. It's just figuring out like, okay, what's the right point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as you guys are talking, it's making me think, right? You've got this tension between the tacticians, the operators, and the innovators. And like you just said, Robyn, innovators get all the cool shit. They're sitting there playing foosball with their dogs, drinking beers during the day. Yep. Everything's great until they don't deliver, and then they all get fired and everything goes away.
Yes.
Right? So I'm a tactical delivery guy, just doing my ops job, staying the course, being a good corporate guy. And I watch this happen. And it happens on a pretty predictable cycle, right? So we tried a thing. It was super flashy. It didn't work out. We stopped doing that thing. 2 or 3 years later, there's a new leader who says, hey, we're going to do this innovation thing. And the cycle starts again. And they try to get people inside the organization interested in it. But if I've been here for 5 or 6 years, well, I've seen this movie before. Like, why do I want to join your risky innovation thing where it's going to be super cool and fun for a couple of years, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to be here. If I stick here and continue to do my job, I'll probably be here. So like, what's your advice to folks trying to gin up this innovation, sort of sandbox inside an existing organization without just hiring everybody from the outside?
Yeah, exactly. So there are people inside. They are the squeaky wheels. They're the people who ask the questions. They're probably honestly the people who are annoying their bosses the most.
I was just going to say that. Hmm.
And God love them. They're doing it out of love because they see potential
Yeah.
and they don't understand why the company isn't going after it. And so find the squeaky wheels, find the misfit toys. So many companies are like, let's put our high potentials on this. And like, I love high potentials, but high potentials are high potentials because they have mastered the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to find the people who are like, can we blow up the system
Right.
and do something else? So you can find the innovators inside and then keep it small. Like so many companies are like, we want a culture of innovation. Like I have something that I can pour into the water that will create a culture of innovation. And so then they're like, let's have an event. Let's have a Shark Tank. Let's have a hackathon. And I'm like, there is no faster or easier way to breed cynicism than to have an event, drag everyone into it, away from their day job. So now they just have work piling up.
Right.
And then do nothing as a result.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that stands with all initiatives, but I've seen this so many times, like the well-intended, take 20% of your time and work on whatever you want. There's no 20%. You take 20% of your time, you mean it's an incremental 20% because nobody's taking work away from me.
Right. Right. And that's the thing. It's like everyone's like, oh, well, the 3M model. The 3M doesn't do that anymore with 20% time. Google stopped their 20% time a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't work.
And the other bit about that is it's like trying to schedule it on your calendar. Okay, so
Yes.
on Thursdays between 2 and 4, I'm going to do innovation. Doesn't
Mhm.
That's
No.
as a musician, I'll tell you, you don't write songs like that either. You don't even write books like that.
Yeah.
No. It's like it strikes you or it doesn't, and you can't schedule it. And so pretending that you can is just it's just frustrating.
So what are the pieces around like the behavior parts that are so critical? That's kind of like if you don't have that, you're kind of sunk. But I'm curious about you called it architecture, the A part. Like what are the systems, processes, like the container that you're doing it within? What is that?
Yeah. So starting, really in that first year, the architecture you need is, a strategy, which sounds very like, oh my gosh, we have to create a strategy. And strategy is choices. And so it's first setting a choice for, okay, what are we going to work on and why? And what aren't we going to work on and why? It's like, Eric, you're like, yeah.
No, it's so funny. I don't mean to interrupt your flow, but it's so funny because I was talking with a customer today and we were talking about this strategy that's being rolled out. And he's like, it's not a strategy. It's a to-do list because there's no why.
Yes.
Yep. So it's like, why are we doing what we're doing and why aren't we going to do stuff? There's also every organization needs different types of innovation, a different, kind of lexicon for it, because we use innovation like chocolate. We just smear it all over everything and we're like, this is amazing. And it is not chocolate. So you need different types of innovation because you know what? Those operators, they can innovate too. And those are the incremental innovations, the core innovations. How do we make things better, faster, cheaper? There's the adjacent innovations like Swiffer was, how do we, continue playing in the same like retail channels, but we bring something new to market. And then there's disruptive, which I very actively say as a big company, don't do it. You're just not prepared. Just don't.
Yeah.
But all those things take different resources, amount of time, risk. So you need a much more precise language. And then the third thing I say in the architecture, you have the strategy, you have the lexicon for innovation. You need to have a number. And people get really angry. They're like, but like, we don't know what'll work. I'm like, it's not about what's going to work, what's not going to work. It's, as I call it, it's the growth gap. It is what is from the company's perspective, what is the gap between what they have promised to someone, shareholders, the board, whoever it is, and what they have line of sight to in the future. And there's always a gap between the aspiration and the line of sight. And that gap is what innovation needs to deliver.
Yeah.
And so you need that number so that you can say, like, look, we've got to close a $50 million gap in the next 3 years with things that we don't have on the plan today. Mm-hmm. You're not committing that your work and your work alone is going to close that gap. But now you've just made, given execs a financial reason to invest.
That's right. Yeah. 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 It's also interesting that whole, with the strategy of what we're not doing. Like, I think of that as what problem are we trying to solve? Because if you're just putting creative people in a room with the wide open blue sky, you've got flying lawnmowers and but what problem are we trying to solve? And if you can get crystallized on, here's the problem we want to solve, that constraint actually creates more better ideas, because we're all looking at the same problem, right? So that why, or that we're not looking at that, we're looking at this, and that can change over time, but that brings the focus to the actual process, so that they're not moving in 100 different directions.
Yes. And those constraints, like, again, I know you guys have seen this. It's like you go into innovation, like, no, it needs to be blue sky or white piece of paper or pick your color and noun. And it's like, no, constraints. Like, innovation thrives in constraints, because it's the constraints that make you think differently.
Right.
And it's the constraints that conserve your resources. So, like you said, Lori, you don't have people going off and making flying lawnmowers when you're a food and beverage company.
Right. Yeah. Well, I look at the pandemic as a case study in constraints that created innovation. There was a very clear problem that everybody understood very clearly. And there was immediate constraint. Everybody go home today. Right.
Yes.
And then we had to figure shit out. And it happens pretty fast. And ideas build up, right? Like, I mean, that whole experience to me was like a little microcosm of, from if you want to stay alive and keep your business open, you're going to have to come up with some stuff here.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think of that as the silver lining on the COVID cloud. And so as people are like, oh, we're not creative, like, actually, not only are you creative, you were creative at this point 5 years ago.
Right.
You can do this.
Right.
Let's just not have like a global pandemic as the cause.
Right.
Let's
How
have
about
something a little lower key.
What problem we want to solve?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that brings a question to mind, because I was talking about this with the client the other day. So, technology company. They are more of an integrator than an innovator, right? Mm-hmm. They do stuff. Now, innovation is a platitude, right? It is baseball, motherhood, apple pie.
Yes.
We want to do it.
Yeah.
And nobody argues against it.
Nope.
But they are struggling to get traction doing it in any meaningful way with consistency.
Yeah.
So, Robyn, if you were walking into an organization like that, like, what would be your sort of first baby step advice for somebody that wants to do it? They get it. They think it's great, but they've got 11,600 projects on the product roadmap and all deliverable in an undeliverable timeline, right?
Of course. Yep.
So we're all super busy. We're all like so close to burning out. And there's still people walking around telling us that we need to be innovating and we need to take this set of products to the next level. And we're tired. What do you do then?
Yeah. I feel you. We're all tired. And so why do you want to innovate?
Because it's good. It's excellent.
So's eating vegetables, and I don't do that. And I mean, it really, like, there are so many things that we know are good, like going to the doctor regularly.
Shut up, Robyn.
That we know are good and we should do it, but we don't.
Yeah.
And so what is the thing that gets in the way of doing all those things that we should, but we don't? And innovation is 100, it's like, it is a should, but we don't. And
But
so
Robyn, if we don't, then we have to buy everything. We're not making anything.
But that can be a strategy, right? That can be, we're going to innovate through acquisition.
Yep.
Right? We're going to create this whole new line because we don't know how to do it. We'll just buy them.
Yep. And let's talk about the trade-offs between creating it and buying it.
Yeah.
But like, let's make a choice. Like, pick a lane, and it's okay. Like, whatever choice you make, it is okay, because innovation, like acquisition, like anything, it's a means to an end, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, you want to grow. So use any tool in the toolbox. Innovation is just one thing, but like, commit to what you're going to do. Don't half-ass it. Don't put on a show.
Whole asset is what you're saying.
Whole asset. Don't half-ass it. Whole asset.
I think that's part of the innovation grit piece, the person, the quality of the person in terms of like the influence piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially if you don't have solid leadership feeding the, it's okay to break stuff. This is what we're looking for, to be able to, give a burning platform speech of, in your pitch and your, your persuasion about this is why this is so critical, and having that passion behind it. I read something about pitches to angel investors.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember all of the details of it, but somebody studied them. Somebody, like, they knew they were being filmed and stuff. This research was going on, and they just kept watching all of these pitch sessions and the reactions of the angel investors and like who got the money and who didn't. And the predominant winning factor was the passion of the person speaking and the story that they told. Not their charts, not their data, not their projections on spreadsheets. It was connecting with the investors on something meaningful, emotional, and their level of enthusiasm and commitment to it. Like that more than anything got the investment.
Yep. We decide with our hearts and we justify with our heads.
That's right. Now you couldn't have bullshit behind all of the stuff.
Although
right?
some people do get bullshit behind their charts and they get it. But yes.
Yeah.
Ideally it'd be genuine. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So but that influence piece is a significant driver.
Third key. Yeah.
So Robyn, as we're sort of rounding third here today, what would you say? Because this is the bartender, and our audience is this is people side of business folks. This is HR people. Yeah. This is talent people. What do you say to HR people who say, "But we don't innovate. There's no innovation in HR. Like there's no crying in baseball. There's no innovation in HR. Like, can we be innovators?"
I think you already are. I mean, I'm just thinking about, so many of the HR even processes, like using AI to scan resumes, like you're already adopting a lot of technology and changing how you do things. And just because it's mechanistic stuff doesn't mean you're not innovating, you're not changing.
Robyn, we're just trying to keep the tip of the snorkel out of the water. Just trying to keep the lights on here. It's not really innovation. I'm just staying alive.
Well, innovation, as I define it, and important to define it because it means something different to everyone, is something new that creates value. Yeah. So if you're doing something new and it's creating value, it's keeping that snorkel tip above the waterline, you are innovating.
Say that one more time.
Innovation is something new that creates value.
Anything new that creates value.
Anything new. Yep.
God,
And
that's a beautiful thing.
if you want to do more, if you want to not fight to keep the snorkel just above the waterline, but like actually get your head above the waterline, there are other things you can do, but it's going to take time to kind of step out of the day-to-day chaos and pressure to be kind of like, take a breath, have a drink.
Yeah.
I do strongly recommend, especially red wine.
It's the innovation fuel.
It is.
For ideating.
And yes, there's science behind it that I talk about in the book. So yes, get yourself a drink and think about like, what are our biggest pain points? Like, what are our biggest problems? And if we were to start over with a blank sheet today, how would we solve that problem?
Mm-hmm.
And, just pick a problem, pick a painful problem and start working on it. And you are going to get the answer wrong the first time. And
that's okay.
Exactly, because you're going to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you will get to the right answer and it'll change everything. The problem, if it doesn't completely go away, it will like drop to the bottom of the pain list.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, a lot of the innovation UHR folks are doing may feel reactive. You're still innovating and you have the capability to do more.
Geez, we're good enough. We're smart enough.
And
Doggone people like us.
People like you.
Sorry, Larry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say there's a great story about in a big tech company, there was an executive assistant who was looking at the process of expense reports. And
she did that a lot.
Yeah. And she thought, this is painful. Everyone hates it. It takes so much time. And so she created a project. What problem are you trying to solve? Pulled some people together, tested a couple of things, ended up within 6 months, rolled out a whole new process. And I don't remember the numbers, but the savings of time, right? So the value brought to the organization was the time savings for these executives and engineers and all the people that are doing all of the work and the innovation. It was like millions of dollars.
Yeah, she funded somebody's budget.
And hundreds of hours from just changing the expense reporting process. So, right, that's, I mean, and that's a huge number to put on something, but all of those things matter in terms of, I love how you said it, that it brings value, right? It's not creating a new product that we're selling, but it created so much space and money for other people to create stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I was pointing to for all of you HR folk out there, right? It doesn't have to be a new product, doesn't have to be something flashy, right? The story, Lori, of the expense reporting. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's real impact. That is something new that creates value, to Robyn's definition. Awesome. Well, we're nearing the top of the hour, so I want to make sure Ruby has an opportunity to ask her question because she usually does. So I do want to give a few minutes for that. And then I want to get into our end of show ritual because I put a pot roast in the crock pot and the house smells delicious. So
I know I have like kind of two questions in mind that's kind of brewing around. So my husband's working at a startup and it's the first time I've really been around it, and it's in the aerospace industry. And I'm just thinking about the different sort of stages of business. I guess what's important from a leadership perspective in that startup business when you're dealing with, cash restraints and you have your creators and you have the people who are stabilizing the business. And it's like, how do you keep people motivated, I guess, is the heart of that question in that kind of environment when you don't know if you're going to be here in a couple months.
Well, yeah. And your innovators have to also be the people that do the stuff every day. It's the same group of people because there's only, 40 of them and there's not 12,000 people here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like six
Yep.
questions in there, but like what's special? Like what advice would you give to the startup world, I guess?
Yep. So I would say, like, make sure everyone's clear on the mission. And I don't mean
Yeah.
the like fancy mission vision, but like, what hill
Yeah.
are we taking? What,
Yeah.
what are we here for?
Yeah.
Have shared values and like co-create them with the team so that everyone holds each other accountable.
Yeah.
And then the biggest mistake I've seen startup leaders make is they don't say no. Someone on the board has a great idea and like, what have you thought about this? And then suddenly everybody is off rushing to that. Like, saying no, being that the shield for your team so your team can stay mission focused, and you're corralling all the noise. So important.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Awesome. All right, Robyn, where do we go to learn more about you? Where do we go to find this amazing book? And how do we get in touch if we want to?
All right. So you can learn more about me and the work I do at my firm Mile Zero. You can go to milezero.io. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect there, and to learn more about the book and to pick up a copy or either one. You can download a free first chapter. Go to unlockinginnovation.co.
Awesome. Well, Robyn, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. I mean, hey, we didn't piss you off the first time, so you came back. That's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. It was a hoot to see you again. I love it when people come back and we get to reconnect and have a laugh or two and share some really good ideas. All right. We're going to get into the end of show ritual. And I got to tell you, just as a heads up, the good feel story today, you will cry. It's going to happen. It's so good. I watched it and I'm sitting here by myself, just tears rolling down my face. And I think I do that because I try to build up immunity so I don't lose it when I do it during the show. All right. Funny things. Funny thing number one. Bill Nye's full name is William New Year's Eve. That made me laugh.
Good.
This is something, if you have children or were a child, I think you can relate to. Parenting is buying 6 yogurts and watching them all get eaten in one day, then buying 12 yogurts and watching them expire because nobody likes yogurt.
I saw that somewhere.
As an adult and being neurodivergent. I'm like, I really liked this yesterday. Not so much today. Cool.
Oh, Celia, I don't want to hear that because I'm hoping that they grow out of that. I'm like, because I'm always like, but you love yogurt. No, I don't like yogurt. Pretty sure I don't like it. I'm like, pretty sure we've bought a lot of it. Okay.
Dang it, that's so yesterday.
So staying in the food lane, Ruby, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but adding more cheese than a recipe calls for has never been one of them.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Why do I always get busted for adding too much cheese?
Nope.
Rude.
There's no such thing.
Thank you.
According to my boyfriend, there is with enchiladas. And
Pretty sure you
half
need
of
a
them
new
was full of
boyfriend.
cheese, half of them was light cheese.
That's what I was going to say.
Red flag. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Red flag.
From the kids say the darndest things department, list 4 ways that we can communicate other than sending a letter through the mail. A, he wrote Twitter. B, he or she, I do not know which, wrote Facebook. C, they wrote FaceTime. And D, Grinder.
Yikes.
Which is why I'm assuming it's a he.
Oh, man.
Not the thing that you want to see on your grade 3 test answer sheet.
Not incorrect.
No, it's not wrong.
It is an answer that is correct.
It's innovative.
It is.
We're going to talk about it at conferences.
Yes.
So I figured I'd just keep it in the dirty lane for this next one.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Someone was going to town in the Boston airport bathroom. Now you can't really see that screen there, but it's a little informational screen as you walk into the restroom. It's like a sign, a digital sign. This is what was logged in on the digital sign. That is the login to Pornhub right there.
Oh no.
Someone hacked it and opened a browser.
Nope.
In the digital
Go
sign
Boston.
in the airport in Boston. So I put that in
Brought
there.
to you by the Boston Tourism Bureau.
I put that in there because Robyn lives in Boston and Ruby and I we go to Logan probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 times a year. So I'll be on the lookout. I'll be on the lookout for the restroom porn hacker. My favorite funny thing today, Ruby, it's not a cat, it's a dog. Because if we've gone, everybody's been to Target. You know those big red balls they put up front, like the concrete barriers to keep people from driving up, but they're aesthetically pleasing. People always wonder what they're for. Apparently, this is what they're for.
Aw.
A good
I
boy.
wait for you right here.
He's such a good boy. There's a German Shepherd sitting on top of one of the big red balls in front of Target.
You.
All right,
I've been practicing my whole life for this.
Yes.
if you do not have your tissues, you may want to grab one because here comes today's Good Feel story.
Oh dear.
Mm.
The way a young boy chose to celebrate one more trip around the sun made the day a whole lot brighter. Here.
It gives me
I was
hope.
like, can we make him president?
Yes, yes, Robyn.
Oh, you know, I know things are busy and things are weird, and I so rely on those stories just to give me a little bit of grounding and a little bit of faith in humanity.
Yeah.
Got
Love
me
it.
again.
Good one, Eric.
I know.
Fucking Steve Hartman, man.
Yeah.
Does Steve Hartman have maybe the coolest job on the planet?
Seriously.
Right?
That dude's bucket is full.
Yes.
Full. All right, today's semi-quarantine cocktail. It's called Fast Plane. It's a riff on the paper plane cocktail, and this is because of a Guinness World Record. So you need a little bit of bourbon. You need one David Rush. He's the guy in the picture there who holds the most concurrent Guinness World Records right now. A little bit of Aperol. We're looking for the fastest time to fold and fly an airplane. A little bit of Amaro. 6.15 seconds was the old record, and it's his. A little bit of lemon juice, freshly squeezed. 5.12 seconds is the new one, and he did it. Broke the record, broke his own record. And he said something that I thought was apropos for Robyn Bolton today. He said, while the paper airplane may not win any awards for aesthetics, it's undoubtedly the most beautiful one I've ever made. It's now housed in the World Record Museum in London. And he said, it's proof sometimes, Robyn, speed and precision outweigh perfection. Innovation isn't about perfection.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
So that, my
One
friends,
on this track with Guinness World Records of like all these crazy things.
it's always it's a good fodder ground for finding weird stories that I can turn into cocktails.
No, not you. I'm talking about like how does he be like, oh, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah. What else can I do?
Oh, how is that working for?
Hey, why not?
Well, hey, thanks to everybody. Thank you, Robyn, for being here with us today. Thanks to everybody tuning in. Thanks to Ruby and Leah for being here. And as always, my partner in crime, Lori. Let's go have some dinner. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyeteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyeteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.